Hi, nice to meet you, Benjamin.
Hi, good to
Thank,
meet you.
thank you for your time and patience to attend my global leader interview. So for this interview, we want to select a global leader from any organizations and conduct a compelling interview.
Okay,
Are you ready?
sure. Yeah, start.
What is the global perspective in your company? What is your job? Why you consider yourself as a leader?
Our company specializes in software automation. And I guess a global perspective. So, for one, we are an international company where we have presence in all continents in the world. Um, and the global perspective would be the dream is to have sort of a automated personal assistant for everybody who uses, a computer,
Mhm.
be it. And the idea is that this assistant will be great at helping with repeatable, repetitive tasks. So be it at work or at home. Um, I guess for leadership, so I personally oversee the ramp up of all our engineers in the company in the US at least.
Mhm.
And that means, like, we're hiring a lot of engineers. We have to make sure that all of them are client ready within a certain time period. And that process itself, involves training, involves a lot of client engagement, and just stuff like that I have to think about and do.
Actually, we have learned a type of leadership in class. It's called appreciative leadership. Do you think like this leadership style applies to your company and your job? And do you think this leadership works?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I'm not Steve Jobs, right? So that guy is pretty inspiring. But I think we do work towards this end as well within the company. So we really encourage all our employees to um, reach out to anyone, regardless of their level within the company, and to really just be comfortable with asking questions or just raising opinions. And the leadership team is also more or less instructed to pay attention to these kinds of things, because we really want to make sure that employees feel that they're part of the company, they're part of the vision, and they're part of everything that the company does. Um, and so, in terms of inspiration, I would say that this inherently inspires people, because people feel comfortable when they know they're not being judged. They know that their leaders are listening to them. And so, I would say that because of this company culture, we have leaders sort of indirectly have inspire the employees.
Okay, so among like the all five factors in appreciative leadership, thank you for answering. By the way, so inquiry abilities, illumination, inspiration, and inclusion, integrity. Which one do you think is the most important part in your daily function?
Okay. So I would say inclusion is the most prevalent one, and as I mentioned before, because of how our culture is, um, from day one, we have to make sure that people feel like they're being valued, um, and to really be able to be comfortable throughout the next few weeks as they start being onboarded into the company.
Mhm.
And so personally, I've also, just things like trying to be more of a friend than a manager really goes a long way, I find, for myself at least. If people feel that you're someone they can trust, there's someone who can for talk to about anything, they will automatically feel included within the company and just be willing to know that their voice is being heard. And I think that's very important.
Thank you for sharing, Benjamin. And also another question is about, do you consider yourself as a transactional leader or a transformation leader, and why? So let me be clear first. So transaction leader is good at like doing a day-to-day operations, keeps your organization functional, and transformation leadership refers to the ability to turn a dream, a vision of a desired future into a reality. It's a more like a big picture thing. So which leadership do you think you are in?
I think I'm more of a transactional one. That's the one that day to day activities, right? Correct.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, most of my job revolves around Um, I guess the more minute details of every employee, so things like, at the beginning stage, it's simple things like, who do I reach out to find an answer for this question, that question, and then it becomes, being able to find the correct client engagements for each individual. An example would be, if someone is based out of Seattle, I wouldn't have like they shouldn't be assigned to a client engagement in Florida, right?
Yeah.
That just doesn't make sense. So they should be assigned to something at least in the West Coast. So just stuff like that, and to be able to look at each of the client engagements and say, I think this person can handle it. No, I don't think this person can handle it. So I think these kinds of things are more day to day than in like, the grand scale, turning a dream into reality, that kind of stuff. I mean, I guess, eventually I would want to move up to that stage, but at least for now, my job function is more transactional.
So thank you so much for sharing. And do you consider authentic leadership plays a role in your organization, and by how? So the authentic leadership refers to emphasize building the leader's legitimacy through honest relationships with their followers, which value their input and are built on an ethical foundation.
For example, when we recruit leaders, a big part of the process is also making sure that they're a culture fit into the company. And that basically means that they're able to follow, the things I've talked about regarding inclusion. And in that sense, employees, I guess it's authentic leadership, because the employees already feel that that the leaders that they follow are taking their own taking them into account and taking them very seriously. And so that just brings out that kind of leadership, in my opinion.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. So when we're talking about the authentic leadership, there are actually 5 points that drive the authentic leadership: focus, value, heart, self-discipline, and relationship. Which factor of authentic leadership do you think plays the most important role in your organization?
I would say focus. And if I'm interpreting this correctly, this would be being able to, at times we do have, the team does grow to a certain size where you can't possibly just remember everything or like tend to everyone. And it's not just because of it's not just a lack of it's not because of a lack of not wanting to be involved, but just rather because there's so many people, it's just hard to keep track of everyone at once. So I think, and that's important because if for example I forget about this person's needs, then that person would eventually feel, oh, maybe my leader doesn't listen to me or doesn't care about me. Even though that's not the case, it's just because I have a lot of people to deal with. So I think focus is very important in authentic leadership, because, and I certainly have to improve on this as well. But it's just if I'm not focused, then my employees might feel that they are being neglected, and that's not a good way of being a leader. So yes.
Have you ever heard LBWA before?
No. What is that?
So it's leadership by walking around. So which means is the style of leadership involves managers walking around in an unstructured manner at random to check with employees, equipment, or on the status of ongoing work. So in your opinion, after hearing this, do you think LBWA is a necessary leadership style for an organization to function efficiently? And did your company apply this leadership style?
So I would say no. And the reason is, I think this could come down to preference as well. But personally, I believe that when it comes to a company, you should have some kind of structure and process to everything. And that kind of leadership sounds like it would, like unstructured way of doing things just sounds like it would lead to disorganization. I think at the early stage of any company, that might be the case, simply because maybe there's not that many people. Maybe the scope of your job might be smaller, but eventually I think you need some kind of process in order to make sure that everyone is properly accounted for and everybody knows what they're doing.
Since we have talked about lots about like different leadership styles, so such as transactional leadership styles, transformational leadership style, authentic leadership style, LBWA, and appreciative leadership style. Which one do you think is the most important one to run a successful business?
Can you repeat the appreciative leadership? What is that again?
So appreciative leadership style is actually inquiry abilities to ask questions and inspire people.
Okay. It's hard to say which one's the most important. In my mind, I think transactional and that other one are the most important ones.
Which one?
The inspiration one that you just mentioned. Sorry, what was it called again?
Appreciative leadership.
Appreciative, yeah. Appreciative and transactional. I think it's important because you can't just have people. It's kind of two sides of the coin here. One, you need to have people feel that they're being included in the company, they're being appreciated, and they're being inspired, of course. But on the other hand, you also need to make sure that day-to-day operations are, going smoothly and all that. You can't just have people being happy all the time and not really doing. If they're not doing any work, then nothing really gets done, and things just go downhill from there. So I would say maybe transactional leadership I would rank as the most important, but equally as important, I would put that appreciative leadership. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Benjamin. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. No problem.
Thank you.